Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, this part specifically being the third part of a lethal bite. Now, apologies for leaving you off a cliffhanger, but not really. That's just how we do things here, so let's go ahead and get to it. This part specifically actually does include quite a bit of angst and a lot of warnings, so definitely be sure to check those out in the video description right before this video and everything, because there's a lot. Yeah, so let's get to it. Hello my lovely viewers, looking for some affordable and good quality anime merch? Want to support your favorite Haikyuu team or join UA? What about joining the Straw Hat Pirates for an adventure or two? Want to join the Black Wolves or the Fairy Tail Guild? Well, this site has that and so much more. Use my discount code and receive 10% off your entire order. Link and code is in the description. Thank you so much for watching. A small beep sounded from the thermometer pressed against Yamaguchi's lips. Kageyama had set the cloth aside that he dabbed against his brow to rid him of the sweat and looked at his temperature. It's still high, he exclaimed out loud, but only silence answered him. Yamaguchi had spent his duration of being sick, lethargic, and was soon unconscious more times than not. Their hopes of waking up the next morning in better health was quickly subdued once the boy had wakened in the middle of the night, rushing to the bathroom and collapsed beside the toilet, vomiting. The noise had undoubtedly awakened the rest of them. It was with haste thought that Kageyama opted to stay home to look over Yamaguchi, who sure as hell wasn't going to work. For once, he didn't even oppose. The raven pulled the covers over the latter's trembling body, frowning at how cold he seemed even though they had pulled out the heater just to accommodate with his fever. Hey, Tadashi, can you try sitting up for me? Let's get you some medicine. The setter absolutely despised having to be the one to stir his lover from slumber, but internally knew that he wouldn't get better if he didn't take any medicine to help aid in his recovery. Yamaguchi grumbled, leaning on the taller the entire time. His pale complexion seemed ghostly white from the overhead lighting, and dark circles rimmed around his eyes. Pressing the tablet to his lips, Kageyama grabbed a glass of water, waiting for the lad to finish taking his medicine. There, is that? A mix of panic and concern tore through his system, watching the smaller catch the small dribble of blood from his nose, and even more so when he pulled back to examine the liquid and confusion bled into his features. Something told Kageyama this wasn't normal. He'd taken care of Yamaguchi, Tsukushima, and even Hinata during the rare times he did catch cold, but this seemed more like a foreign battlefield laced with landmines. He pressed a cloth to his nose, sopping up the blood, watching the latter fall back to his sleep in his arms, still sitting up. The setter's brow etched in worry, setting him back on the bed and pulled the covers back over him before he slipped out the door quietly. It hurt. Why did it hurt so much? It felt as if his body was set ablaze from the inside, while his skin was forced to freeze by the eternal cold. His head spun, even when lying down, and everything bled together in his mind. Yamaguchi couldn't recall what time it was, or even the date. He was at home, right? Or still at work? Was it neither? He was confused and felt disoriented all to hell. He tried moving his arm, but only a pitiful twitch was all the movement he could make. Everything hurt. It hurt to move. It hurt to breathe. It hurt to be awake, hurt to be asleep. He lurched to the side, coughing, feeling a metallic taste boil up his throat and ooze past his lips. You. The name sounded as a pained croak, not any louder than a whisper. With trembling hands, he reached for his phone on the nightstand. His hand slipped and he tumbled off the bed with a loud thud. He tried to scream out in pain, but the gurgle of blood deafened his voice, followed by another poor attempt to call out for Kageyama when the pain in his stomach worsened. Desperate to breathe, he twisted himself to the side, coughing and wheezing, not being able to catch his breath, and felt as if his lungs were confined in a tight imprisonment. After the series of events that happened one after another, his vision doubled and felt his eyelids begin to droop over his tired eyes. Shit. No. This wasn't good. He could almost laugh at his terrible luck, but even that too would be drowned out by the sound of him wheezing and vomiting blood. He shivered pathetically, no longer wrapped in the blankets that hovered just above him in bed. He didn't have the strength to get up. His body wanted him to rest. He should rest. The alerts in his brain were screaming at him not to close his eyes, but his willpower was weak. His tired eyes remained glued on the old t-shirt Hinata more than likely threw on the ground. His Tsukushima always scolded him for it. Given the dirty clothes hamper was directly next to where he'd throw the clothes. Smiling wretchedly, his eyes glossed in remorse as the first tear fell from the corner of his eye in defeat. A home full of love and laughter seemed so cold and dark. The lack of security from Tsukushima and the barrenness of joy from Hinata was evident. Kageyama. He was close, yet so far. The aroma basking in the warm kitchen flooded the room as Kageyama diligently worked on making porridge, without burning down the house. Out of all of them, Kageyama was the one not allowed in the kitchen. But obviously when it came to it, he could whip up a simple dish such as porridge, even if it sometimes came out burnt, bland, or overly seasoned. There really was no in-between with the setter. His eyes crinkled when he smiled softly, hoping Yamaguchi likes the food and only desires for him to get better. The spoon in his hand sunk to the bottom of the pot once he heard a small thud in the direction of their bedroom. His heart immediately leapt to his throat. Tadashi? The Raven wasn't expecting a response, for the small fact that Yamaguchi hadn't responded all day because he's been so sick. But gods, he wished he could hear it. His feet thudded down the hall and burst into the bedroom, horrified at the sight. Yamaguchi was on the floor with blood coming from both his mouth and nose. Tears streamed down his face and he convulsed on the floor. Tadashi? Without any hesitation, Kageyama was on his knees, hovering over Yamaguchi, taking his hand in his and already dialing for help. He should have trusted his gut from before. Maybe if he had, Tadashi wouldn't. What's your emergency? Kageyama bit his lips, a silent gesture to urge himself to speak up and remain calm. That's what he had to do. Remain calm. My partner is sick and he collapsed. Is your partner hurt? Any head injuries you can see? The lady on the phone spoke kindly, obviously used to people's panicked tones on these calls. She did well to remain patient for both his and Yamaguchi's sake. No head injury, but he's coughing up blood, and he's twitching a lot. Does your partner have any medical history with epilepsy? He blinked. Epilepsy? No, he's never had them before. He's healthy. His Tadashi had always been healthy, that only suffer from the common cold every once in a while, just as everyone else does. Why was his health suddenly declining like this? From what I can tell from your description, I believe your partner may be having a seizure. Is he conscious with you? The setter looked down, meeting his lover's eyes, albeit distant and hazy. Sort of. He's like, out of it. Alright, that's good. Try to keep him with you. I've sent an ambulance your way, sir. Until then, stay with your partner. Alright, I won't go. What do I do to help? Have you ever experienced someone seizing before? He thought back to his grandfather's final days whenever he was in middle school. Seizures aren't necessarily life-threatening. His grandfather was just weak from his own declining health. He remembered vaguely his older sister, Miwa, helping their grandfather. Once. A long time ago. It's best to remain calm and not hold your partner down. Just make sure to protect his head. The raven let go of Yamaguchi's hands and ripped one of the blankets off of the bed to gently tuck underneath the smeller's head to cushion it. It will help first responders to time how long he's seizing and the time in between them. He mumbled the curse underneath his breath, switching the call to speaker and pulled out his stopwatch. The setter relished hearing the distant sounds of ambulance turning onto the street. Why is he coughing up blood? Is he gonna be okay? He wasn't even sure why he was asking the poor woman on the phone. She had no way of knowing Yamaguchi's condition, just from the lame excuse of describing them. She was only there to assure him help will arrive, and give him false hope. I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that, sir. But I can assure that help is arriving and will do everything in their power to help your partner. The next string of moments blended together. The medics from the ambulance came running in and lifted Yamaguchi onto a stretcher and rushed him to the ambulance to stabilize him. It was in that terrible moment Tsukishima and Hinata were walking home together, spotting the ambulance pulled out in front of their home. The peace and comforts of their home had been replaced by dread and grief in only the matter of minutes. Alright, that officially concludes the third part of A Lethal Bite. I am not going to lie to you. It is 3 a.m. Why did I do this to myself? It is 3 a.m. I am exhausted. So this outro is not gonna make any sense. I mean, when is it ever making sense? Because I can never film outros, but we will ignore that. And oh, looky there. I'm rambling again. Lovely. Anyways, besides the cliffhanger, I hope you did enjoy this part. Kinda sorta. Kinda sorta. No, I'm not making sense. Next part does deal with a little bit of angst. I'm starting to think maybe this is actually going to be 5 parts instead of 4. You guys are witnessing me going through the whole thought process for this just because I'm sleep deprived. Lovely. Let's go ahead and skip that. So thank you so much to all of my lovely duckers. You guys are super duper amazing. If you want to become a ducker, click the join now button and you'll be able to access all of this early access content. I do try to keep at least 10 videos. Life does happen, and I do have 2 full-time jobs on top of my channel full-time. Plus, I decided to start back on my book. Send help. And I will see you all next time.